Hi everyone. Thanks for joining our Lean Startup Webcast. Today's webcast will be Q&A with Sonja Kresojevic, Senior Vice President of Global Product Lifecycle at Pearson. I'm Felicia Chanko, Production Manager of Lean Startup Company. We've got two events coming up, Lean Startup Labs Summit Series in New York City on February 25th, and Lean Startup Week in San Francisco on October 31st to November 6th. Please visit leanstartup.co for more information. Sonja is an award-winning senior executive at Pearson with extensive global experience in the online media and publishing industries, both with startups and corporates. She'll chat with Aubrey Smith of Lean Startup Company and answer questions about implementing Lean for product development and portfolio investment management. Aubrey is an enterprise innovation ninja, Lean Startup coach, and passionate commercial strategist. She was on the early team of GE's FastWorks initiative, where she worked directly with Eric Ries to develop important components of the operating system. A few housekeeping notes. We'll be taking questions from the audience via the live chat. If you'd like to ask a question, please flag it by starting with a Q: before your question. This is a 30-minute program, and the recording will be available after the live webcast. Take it away, Aubrey and Sonja.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you, Sonja, for joining us this afternoon or this morning for this lovely discussion. I wanted to just take a moment to talk about Pearson and their passionate team. I have gotten to know them and have had the great pleasure of getting to know them over the last 6 months or so, and they truly come by this trade honestly. They're some of the most passionate in the industry, and they are a true mix of entrepreneurs and corporate strategists. It's very unique. They fear almost nothing, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but they truly keep the ball moving despite any setbacks. And their program is one of the most thought through and encompassing I have ever seen in this business. So it gives me the great pleasure of talking to Sonja today. Let's start with your company, Sonja. Who is Pearson, and what is your specific role at the company?
Hi, Aubrey. Thank you for having me today. Pearson is the world's largest education company, a traditional publisher with almost 40,000 employees, operates in 80 countries, institutional sales and print background, and grew through acquisition, which, as you know, comes with its own set of challenges. I'm a Senior Vice President of Global Product Lifecycle. I work in the Chief Product Office, and I've been leading for the last 2 years implementation of the company-wide framework for product management and portfolio investment governance.
Great. So what's going on in your industry and education today that's led you to the need for change? What are your true external challenges today?
I think there is a lot happening in the education space, and we can spend hours or days talking about it. You know, it's a great set of challenges. You know, this company is truly passionate about changing people's lives through learning, and there is so much opportunity in the space. But obviously, as with any other industry, there is a lot of disruption. You know, the digital transformation has happened in many other industries. It's happening in education. Our competitors are changing. They're not traditional publishers anymore. They're, you know, big established tech companies or, you know, startups. And what's unique to them, as you know, is they operate differently. They move with higher speed, they have a lower cost base, they go to market quicker, they're passionate about building products that customers love, and they apply Lean Startup and Agile principles to do that. So we are also realizing that, you know, our processes are outdated, that we need to change, that if we want to attack the $5 trillion opportunity that the education space is, that, you know, our processes need to change, the ways of working needs to change, and we need to become and operate more like startups.
Right. So when we'll get into this in much greater detail, so we're just giving a window into what we'll talk about at the Lean Startup Enterprise Workshop on the 24th of this month. But can you talk to us about the scope of your transformation effort? So what is the product's lifecycle process? And then we'll talk about how have you infused Lean Startup into that.
Yeah. So just starting with the product lifecycle, although the program of work is much bigger than just the process and the framework. But as I said, it's a framework for product management and investment governance. It covers the 6 stages in the life cycle of each product, starting with really idea, exploration, and validation, what we call, you know, searching for a business model, part of the life cycle, to grow, sustain, and retire, or executing on a proven business model. And it's really for us a scalable and repeatable process that we can deploy across the product portfolio in order to enable execution of our product strategy and a much better portfolio decisions. So there, do you want me to continue or?
Yeah, no, I want to get to how is Lean Startup infused in that?
Sure. So there are a couple of ways, right? So the stage gate criteria that we apply for making decisions is appropriate to the stage in the life cycle. So there are a couple of aspects that are really important. First, we don't want to kill innovation too soon by asking for full P&L and things like that. So with those early stage ideas, we apply a lot of Lean Startup principles. We drive innovation through experimentation, early evaluation, speaking to customers, using Lean analytics, iterating on MVPs. And all of that is now supported by incremental funding. So our product teams get small seed funding to go and explore and validate ideas and come back with validated learning in order to get additional funds to proceed.
So let me just stop there. This is a program that's product-wide, company-wide, encompassing of your entire geographical reach. Is that right?
Yes, that's the ambition. We definitely have that mandate, and we are rolling it out across the business now, and I can tell you a bit more about how we started and where we got to, but there are 10 big business units in Pearson who are now applying this across the board. And all the process is globally applicable. All the agreements we have made in terms of how financial systems are going to work are globally applicable as well.
Wow. So let's go to that. How did this start? So you've shared with me that you were one of the early evangelists. You even gave me a little nugget into the fact that you attended a conference at one point and learned these ideas around Agile and Lean Startup, and you truly brought that back to your company. Talk to me about that cycle and the journey you've been on.
Sure. Well, I've been in this space for a long time, working for startups, working for big corporates, and not just working on how we apply Lean and Agile to how we build products in a better way, but really how do we drive business transformation using Lean and Agile. And, as many others, I've read Eric's book, I've been at the conference, I've seen the light. And, in my first role with Pearson, I was charged with running the PMO for our international digital business. And in that role, I started by implementing Lean and Agile within that product portfolio. And really started with training and evangelism and building a community of practice. And success from those early projects and products have reached exec team and the product teams on the ground who were expressing more and more interest. At the same time, the chief product officer group was formed, and I was asked to take this process and program to the global level and to really impact the change across the organization.
So your organization did start small to get big, is that right?
Yeah, definitely. I always joke that we use life cycle for how we roll out life cycle. So we've done everything from, getting running experiments, seeing how much interest there is, building the community, evangelizing, going on road shows, to then testing all of this with our early adopter business units, perfecting the process, then working on the underlying processes that needed to change, to now really scaling it across the business now that we have evidence of and data of how this works in practice.
So what do you think was the factor that brought you, and we'll get into this obviously in person during the workshop some more, but what were some of the factors that led to Lean Startup truly taking root in the company? Why did leaders adopt this throughout your company? What drove them culturally or otherwise to get beyond this evangelizing concept?
Yeah. I think the main thing is with any big kind of change transformation effort is we are not applying Lean Startup, we are fixing business problems, and you have to put it in a business context, right? So otherwise the change is too scary, people are set in the ways of how they work. So if you start with, we have long product cycles, it takes forever to bring product to market, and when we do, customers haven't been involved in the process early enough, or we have a great product in North America, we want to deploy it in China, it doesn't really work, right? We are not competitive potentially enough, or we are not growing enough, or we are not reaching all the market potentials that we can. So if you contextualize what you're trying to do to the specific business problems. And it's tricky because, what executives care about is very different, and their problems are different to what product managers on the ground care about. So a lot of what we had to do is, really contextualize it to the problem of each business unit, of each kind of, layer in the organization or each functional group. So, when you talk to finance and talk about, we don't have necessarily all the data in order to make smart decisions, we don't have P&L at the product level, that's something they care about. So they start being interested. If we were to go to them and talk about lean startup, they wouldn't understand.
How have you brought finance over the hump here? I know that we're going to, again, get into this in more detail, but they've been a really critical part of your recent journey. Talk to me about why they're so important to you, to the program, and to Lean Startup in enterprise.
Yeah, I think for Lean Startup to really work in an enterprise, and for enterprises to be able to truly invest in those, especially early stage ideas, you need to change the way you finance, right? You really need to move towards incremental funding that's more kind of seed-based, so you get a small amount to go improve something. That opens up the funnel, so you have a lot of small bets. When you look at the data in the industry, over 90% of businesses or products fail. So how do we systematically find the 10% that are going to succeed? And in our case, we have to do that over and over and over. And obviously, when you couple that need with some really big bets that the company makes, and big enterprises make big bets. They go from business case to execution, and those failures are often public and painful to the P&L. And finance understand that. You talk to them about the risk reduction. You talk to them about the evidence that you can see from other industries, and you can get them on board.
So you've talked a little bit about the challenges. What have been some of your challenges? I know this takes great personal resilience and sustainability. What have been some of the sort of dips in your journey?
Yeah, there are so many, right? With any big change management effort, there's so many challenges. True. I think, the first challenges you usually face is people don't necessarily understand they have a problem. Right? They think everything is fine. They are set in the way they work. So, getting over that first hump and explaining how this can be different, but not being too aggressive about it. So really trying to get them on board and get the buy-in. Two, change is painful. So how you manage that. We've done so many workshops where, I didn't even want to publish the life cycle. And life cycle went through so many iterations. And, I can show some early examples of what it looked like. But really it was a brown paper with lots of sticky notes, and we would ask stakeholders to give input, so they felt that they were part of the process, and this is not happening to them. Right. Some of the challenges come from just the scale of the effort that we are trying to affect. It's enormous. We are a small team. It's 10 of us. It's the company of 40,000 people. You do the math, right? And I think another big challenge in big enterprises is this fear of failure. This is not something that's culturally, supported. We can go and talk about failing fast, but this is not how big corporates usually operate. Failure is a dirty word, and we even started talking about learning fast instead of failing fast. But
yeah. Right, using different wording.
Now,
you have infused an interesting mix, as I led in the intro, of talent in your organization. You've brought in some outside entrepreneurs and the like. Talk to me about why that's important for something like this.
I think it's crucial, not just bringing, different mix of skills to your team and bringing people from other industries who have done similar programs, not just from startups, but also big corporates who have gone through similar challenges and similar transformations, to also opening this up externally and really working and building that community. So we do a lot of external events. We bring a lot of external people to the company to teach, to talk. We partner with a number of meetups, both in London and New York, trying to mix things up. And to all the events we organize, we always have a mixture of external and internal people. We want our people to be exposed to what's happening in the industry, how other companies building products, how they're thinking about lean startup. All of that is really important to us because we are not unique in problems we are facing. And having that great talent someone who can really come and explain, I've done this before, it's hard, these are the challenges, that brings credibility.
Sure. And so now I'm going to go into some of the Q&A. One question around what we're talking about in terms of talent in your team is, how do you support the businesses today? What are the tools? Do you have coaches deployed? What is the support network like?
So I have a couple of people on my team who are dedicated to training. So we started with just general awareness training initially in the first year. Last year we have launched Train the Coach program, and we have trained 150 people across the organization, really focusing on the most important business units first, ensuring that people have support. So people within their teams have become product lifecycle coaches, and they're working and supporting the teams. We have continued to scale that. We have a really strong network and community practice where people come together, share ideas on a weekly basis. We also provide a lot of just, how-to guides, how-to videos. We've launched a playbook that goes into detail of how you build a product using product lifecycle, how do you make different decisions. So, and then we provide support to business units implementing the lifecycle through, working with them through initial workshops on how to do this, to coaching and training for product council members, for instance. You really need to teach people how to make decisions differently using this criteria. This is not, business as usual. So.
Now, and do you have any tools supporting some of the financial aspects of the program as well?
Yes, we have built, working with an external partner, our product portfolio tool that enables us to manage products through different stages of the life cycle, to capture all the data and evidence, have records of all the decisions, and we are now in the process of integrating that with financial systems so we can have a full comprehensive data set in the same place.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next question. How long did it take you to implement Lean Startup company-wide? So for those in the audience who are thinking about rolling out a program like this, can you give me some sense of the timeline that they should anticipate?
So I've been doing this for 3 years. In the first year, I was in that role, as I described, working on implementing Lean Startup at just smaller scale within one business unit. We've been now doing this for 2 years, and we are nowhere near to be done, right? So this is a really, truly, 3 to 5 year horizon program of work with a lot of change that needs to happen on so many levels.
And so you're in year 2 of that 3 to 5.
We are now in year 3.
Year 3. Okay, thank you. Okay, so to the next question. To what extent have Pearson's technology teams, for example, IT, been involved in the Lean Startup process or the PLC process?
Well, we are working very closely to technology. They support all our product development teams, so it's really important they're part of that. And we collaborate with them. We work with to support, Scrum and Agile processes and how they align and how you can improve products through that. To now working with our CIO organization on how to transform some of the internal IT projects as well, applying the product lifecycle. So they're a really big part of our efforts as well.
Okay, and then sorry, just to get into the specifics there, how do you prioritize some of the projects that your team or the business teams work on within the framework of your program?
We don't prioritize, they prioritize, right? So we have worked with executives to prioritize the business units, where we're going to go first. A lot of that was looking at the maturity curve, seeing where some of the existing processes were, picking early adopters that were more mature and more on board already, and working with them to prove this, and then scaling now to the really high-focused, high revenue-generating business units where we really need to affect change sooner rather than later.
Right. Okay, so our next question from the audience, where can someone who works in education look for examples of startup thinking in the space?
There is a lot happening. There are a lot of great ed tech meetup groups that are meeting in New York that I know of. We organize our enterprise meetup group as well, so you're more than welcome to join us. We are just in process of launching our external website where we're going to be sharing some of the materials we are using and that we find helpful, and very happy for everyone to contribute and tell us what they think and help us advance this even more.
When are you planning to share those?
We are hoping to have something, an MVP, ready in time for our conference. So I'll bring some of the materials to the conference as well. But
great. And so just so I understand and the audience understands, so you will be making some of those more public on the website eventually, is that right?
Yeah.
Beyond the conference?
Definitely, definitely. We are really, truly hoping to open source as much as possible.
Awesome. And just a teaser for the workshop, Sonja's team will be sharing part of their portfolio decision-making process, a very specific slice of it so that we can get really deep into how they truly run their process at the organization for making portfolio management decisions. Okay, so let me move on to another question. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the workshops that you host within your organization? So this is actually a really unique feature of your team. You host Coach the Coaches as well as other types of executive workshops. What do those look like, just for someone who's new to this?
Well, everything from 1 hour introduction to the life cycle to a product life cycle train the coach program, which is more comprehensive. So it starts with 2-day face-to-face where we go on the first day through all the aspects of the life cycle. We get candidate coaches to leave the building and speak to customers, to the day 2, which is all about how do you coach teams. And then we continue through a series of face-to-face or online webinars over the series of 8 to 10 weeks, at which point they're certified. And one of the requirements for the program is they need to have product teams on board from day 1. So we want them to go back after the first 2 days and truly work with product teams to immediately implement, and also come back to us with, these are the challenges we are experiencing, help us solve it. To obviously, then
yeah. How do you keep them accountable for that? I'm curious.
Accountable as in coaches?
Make sure that they truly get out of the building and get those experiments launched right away.
Well, this is the thing, they're not accountable to us. They're accountable to their organizations, right? To their product consoles, to really truly transforming how they build their product portfolios. So we don't make decisions. They're not accountable to us. This is not a centrally governed program of work. So I think a lot has to be said about accountability, transparency, empowerment. People truly need to believe that this is the right thing, and they need to see the benefits immediately, in order to get on board.
Right. So I think this will be our last question from the audience, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the workshop, and then we'll close. Where do you go from here, Sonja? So how is Lean Startup helping your company grow now that they've adopted the methodology? And do you think it's really had an impact on the company's strategy or product development? Sort of where does it go from here?
I think we're starting to see the changes. I think the focus is going to be very much on growth and innovation. There is also a lot of effort on just streamlining the existing product portfolio. It's too diverse. There are too many products where we are still investing and not really reaping the benefits we should. So a lot of effort is going to go there. A lot of effort needs to go just on underlying culture and continuing to build that culture, look into how we incentivize, how we reward people. Then I have this crazy ambition about changing how we also do strategic planning. So it's not
crazy. Okay, talk to us about that.
So that's really important. You cannot plan 3 to 5 years in advance anymore. Those plans change very often, and problems that big enterprises face is when things don't go according to plan, which is often, what do you do? And what we have done so far with finance in terms of enabling incremental funding is a first really table stake, but we need to go further than that. We really need to change how we do the strategic planning, how we become more reactive, how we do those portfolio reviews, and how we react when things don't go according to plan, or when products don't perform, or when they fail. So this is one of the big challenges we want to tackle this year.
Awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do in the workshop. So you and I are going to conduct a much more in-depth interview, and you're going to share a little bit about your portfolio process, including the criteria, and how are you going to involve the audience in the session? I mean, I know you're bringing your team, which I'm very excited about, and they're going to work with me. Talk to me a little bit about how we can get the audience involved in truly deep dive into your process.
Well, as we've discussed, we're going to do a more in-depth interview, and I'll be sharing more details of what this process looks like and, what challenges we have been facing in the organization. We'll bring some of our materials and share that with the audience, but we are also running a workshop on the back of the interview, splitting the room into groups, presenting them with use cases, giving them some of our stage gate criteria, and really letting them go with it and use that criteria to make decisions and engage with the process on a more in-depth level. And, it's a great opportunity for us to learn from the audience as well and maybe even incorporate some of the feedback into the process going forward.
Thank you, Sonja. Okay, we've reached the end of our time here. Thanks so much for your time, and thank you, audience, for attending.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks to everyone for joining us today. This wraps up our show. Please join us again for the next one on February 17th. In the meantime, visit leanstartup.co for more information on Lean Startup Lab's Summit Series in New York City on February 24th and 25th, and Lean Startup Week in San Francisco on October 31st to November 6th.